The model minority is a classic media trope depicted in Western entertainment and media. Within this framework, individuals who identify as non-white are almost always characterized by their highest achievable attributes or more welcomed societal stereotypes.
Well, I thought you were the sensitive artiste/clothing designer now. When will you learn? I'm everything.
Degrassi is no different, in that many of the non-white characters come from wealth and privileged backgrounds.
Now, here's a guy who never has to worry about getting a job.
Whoa. Dad took me shopping last night, a little belated birthday gift.
Are exceptional at what they do.
Degrassi on Liberty Van's End. Congrats this morning to Toby Isaacs and his computer programming team.
And are deemed as worthy among core friend groups, with core groups being poignant in this breakdown. Because have you ever noticed what makes each Black character worthy in the world of Degrassi? Have you ever actually discerned the modern minority trope for what energy it carries? At face value, it seems reductive and rudimentary to point out that the portrayal of Black Degrassi characters was reduced to positive, idealistic, desirable traits over ones that are more complex, perpetuating the Black experience as a monolith. That's not to say that Black characters were never depicted negatively, just only in the most hyper stereotypical ways, like 50-50 arguments within Black dating spheres.
So, $4 each?
Hold on. Your latte was more than my macchiato, so plus tax you go $5.25.
Are you serious?
It's only fair, right?
Which, by the way, was never an issue in literally any other Degrassi relationship, like, ever. In Degrassi, if a Black character struggles, their parents are likely on substances or involved with crime. However, if your family is successful, it's more likely that they neglect you.
This is gone and it's all your fault. My dad's in prison. My mom's so high most of the time she barely remembers my name.
What did you ask for?
I told my dad I wanted a snowboard. He probably didn't even hear me. Mom just called to tell me that her and dad are working late again. She said I should order myself a pizza.
And if you dislike parts of yourself, it's likely because you're ashamed of who you are.
Hazel Arden. So, you're Jamaican.
What was your first clue?
Arden, not really a common name. Maybe in Somalia.
Really?
Sort of looks Somalian, too.
Really? Well, why don't you mind your own business, Breeza, before Jamaica declares war in Iraq?
These plot points are virtually textbook when it comes to Degrassi, but a deep dive into portrayals of Degrassi Black characters reveals an even deeper energetic imbalance in the ways Black existence is simultaneously idealized and sidelined. Degrassi Black characters are somewhat nuanced by nature, having to wear multiple hats within their peer groups and stretch their emotional bandwidth further than main cast members. In this video, we'll be looking at how Black Degrassi characters held a standard of excellence and high performance while being tasked with metabolizing their own troubles and that of their peers. This is a Channeling Chinez podcast. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, y'all. Let's get right into it. One thing Degrassi wants you to know about their Black characters is that they're desirable.
You're a popular hot girl who drives a convertible.
Chante, man. That girl is fine.
Has BLT invited you to the graduation dance yet? Oh, he probably won't. I mean, he's popular, cute, athletic.
Not Hazel. She's single, she's hot, she's...
What about Lucy? Now she is a babe.
Will Degrassi's sexy genius get an A or an A+?
While many of the Black characters rarely get flushed out storylines, their perception in the eyes of their peers is that of someone who was romantically and physically wanted. So much so that this perceived desire could be a threat to other characters, with many Black characters serving as relationship plot devices.
Everybody loves a football star.
Just Marisol. She's keeping the contact list for the whole team.
Is that what she told you? Casey, that girl collects boys and other people collect ringtones.
My mom's making marinara sauce and I always help her. Thanks, Hazel. It's just getting kind of late.
Did I do something?
Just walked out on a date with one of Degrassi's coolest girls for your mom's pasta sauce?
If I were you, I'd get up there soon. Cabins equals kissing. Kissing? Who's there? Katie. Marisol, too, I guess.
Marisol?
It's interesting that at one point or another, almost every notable Black character in Degrassi is referred to as hot or highly attractive. This is notable as there are several characters of Caucasian or white descent or otherwise who aren't showered with as much aesthetic praise. Degrassi wants you to believe that Black characters are the aesthetic standard.
Hey, Marisol. As a power spotter and the hottie, I'm concerned about your current status as single.
Even the concept of the glow up was rarely seen in white characters as much as it was seen with their Black counterparts. I ask, where was Toby's glow up or Claire's? The idea of how Black characters look visually to their peers matters and can be overstated by wealthy Black characters who can afford the latest and greatest, or so-called cool Black characters who just have the it factor.
I have no chance with Chris. It's like he's on a different planet or something. A cool planet. I'm on planet White Dark.
You got those shoes for your birthday too? I just wish I had your dad, Jim.
Lucy Fernandez of classic Degrassi in particular was highly sought after among male counterparts and at times hypersexualized by her peers. She was arguably the most desirable girl according to her friend group at Degrassi.
They're nice to you because you've got a boyfriend in 11th grade. You get treated special. We get treated like dirt.
I don't want to get in the way of you and your boyfriend.
I told you, he's not my boyfriend anymore.
Why? Didn't he respect you in the morning?
But Degrassi wanted to make it important that it was known that she was only half Black and half white, ?
Lucy, have you ever been discriminated against?
Yeah, lots of times. I get it both ways because I'm only half Black, right?
We are never quite sure which of her parents are the Black counterpart, but Degrassi wanted her to be seen as the most sophisticated and sexually desirable amongst her peers. I may start to use variations of some of these terms because I'm not sure what I can say on YouTube. I want to try to keep this video as passable as possible with the algorithm. So if I do use that language, try to use your imagination. But why does this matter? The simplest answer is that it legitimizes their value. Black characters in Degrassi seem to require some sort of desirable attribute or even access in order to have relevance amongst their peers, while white characters exist as they are.
Chante, I want your life. I want your friends to be my friends, and I want my weekends booked up to July.
Claire Edwards was outwardly socially awkward and a self-proclaimed nerd, but she was main girl. However, her best friend, Ali Bandari, was not only the smartest girl in her class, but also labeled as the hottest. And while Ali is not a Black character, and I just want to make that clear, she is the character with the deepest skin tone in her class, and pigment in Degrassi, as reflective in our lived reality, matters when it comes to how you're valued by others. None of this is coincidence. As we notice the reality of skin tones ranging from pale ivories to deepened ebonies, we understand as a collective the literal yin and yang of human beings, meaning the literal black and white of things and the spectrum that lies between, even if we don't outwardly label ourselves that way. And for this reason, consciously or subconsciously, we see the elements of yang energy, things like productivity, discipline, and structure praised in white counterparts, while we often associate energies of creativity, soulfulness, and culture in people of color, or the collective yin. And with that comes a skewed interpretation and representation of an entire vibration. The focus on desirability and aesthetics among Black characters is symptomatic of a collective imbalance in the sacral chakra. It's 2025, and as a collective, we are just now realizing that we as a people are entirely too freaked out, meaning there is far too much emphasis on physical appeal and satisfaction. While desire and creativity are all beautiful parts of the sacral, they're not the only ways this energy shows up. Black characters in Degrassi are typically impassioned, focused characters led almost entirely by deep dreams, internal beliefs, and expansive mindsets. Yet these story beats are hardly ever thrust to the forefront. Characters like Lucy of classic Degrassi, Jimmy, and Liberty arguably had more interesting life desires than characters like Spinner or Ellie, with promise in their futures so bright it couldn't go unnoticed by their peers.
Jimmy, you burned up the floor this morning. You're doing fine. Fine. I want to do better than that.
Look at that design. It's awesome.
People love it. I would give anything to have what you have, Jimmy. Talent.
These are all manifestations of powerful sacral energy that seemingly come innate to many of the Black characters who receive screen time. While the majority of mainstream characters had simple desires and lightly laid plans, Claire just wanted to be a writer. Anya had absolutely no direction. Emma lost all her ambition to dating. Paige dropped out of school and coasted on her parents' cash. And yes, there are outliers like Craig and Darcy and Mia who went off to become superstars or cure kids in Africa, but when you look at the Black characters, they were hardly anything less than great.
What about me?
Come on, don't be so modest. 2 years of physical therapy, followed by an honors BA and a master's in anthropology.
PhD in 1 more year?
Liberty got into Banting and Smithdale. She was sorority royalty. Connor was the smartest student to attend Degrassi, possibly in Degrassi history. I'm not sure about Webster. Tiny went to Caltech on a full scholarship. Shay was one of the best athletes to wear Degrassi blue and lead in track volleyball and cheerleading. Jimmy became Drake. Degrassi takes the model minority trope and exploits it in the background, but also returns its focus back to the Black excellence through desirability. But why doesn't Degrassi expect as much from mainstream characters? And how far is this expectation of Black overachievement articulated in the show? There are characters who are the inherent big bad, and I go into detail about some of the most toxic male characters in another podcast episode. If you haven't seen that yet, check out my Degrassi playlist. But then there are Black characters who have to manage being the good, the bad, and the most reliable, all whilst maintaining proximity to their codependent counterparts.
Just so you know, I'm not cool with you taking over.
Paige won't care. She's too wrapped up in Matt to even notice.
It's a crush, no big thing.
You don't have to lie. Paige told me about her hot after-school affair.
While Hazel had to serve unfriendly Black hottie realness, she also had to be heart-centered on the needs of Paige or her partner, and we saw this same dynamic between Katie and Marisol, as well as Zig and Tiny.
You do know that you can be secrecy challenged sometimes, right? How could you not tell me?
Gee, Mr. Oleander, I thought you only had eyes for Paige.
Hi, I'm Hazel. Just who you want to see.
Wow, she's not just an evil backstabber. She's kind of witty, too.
I'm so sorry. You were right.
Many of the Black characters had to present polarizing perspectives while still being emotionally supportive to their peers.
It's a high school election. Nobody cares about the issues.
Then how will I get people to vote for me?
People want their president to be aspirational. Like the girl in this poster.
You know how much I want this.
As much as I wanted Drew.
Mare, I was gonna tell you.
After you announced your engagement.
I want you guys to know the truth behind these rumors.
I made them up. There was no way I could beat Katie without playing dirty. I've known Katie my whole life, and she's the perfect girl for the job. That's why I'm withdrawing.
You're going to rule this school.
One of the most egregious examples of this, in my opinion, is the Dave-Adam transphobia storyline. Dave Turner, a Black character whose entire personality is his thirst for popularity and recognition, something that could arguably be labeled as a stereotype of Black characters as the curators of entertainment, another nod to the truth and exploitation of yin energy, I digress, and Adam Torres, a trans male student at Degrassi and brother of Drew Torres, which is a very important piece to this story, are competing for a radio spot on Degrassi Radio. Both characters end up hosting the show, and Dave is seen having reservations about creating content on the radio about man topics with a trans student. This was not the first instance of transphobia at Degrassi, as Adam had been physically assaulted by Fitz and Owen, two characters who are never seen apologizing or atoning for their behaviors. However, Degrassi would choose to place the task of tackling phobia beliefs on Dave Turner in one of the most gaslighting and manipulative ways. Now, before I get into this breakdown, I want to be clear that this perspective isn't about tackling subjects like transphobia, but rather who they ask to tackle these subjects in the show. While working on content for the show, Dave leaves to use the restroom, to which Adam follows. Adam is caught looking at Dave while he was using the urinal, a fact only acknowledged by Eli, by the way.
I only went into the guy's bathroom because I wanted him to see me as a guy.
backfire much?
Because you got caught sneaking a peek.
And Dave feels uncomfortable. Let's be clear, looking at someone while they use the restroom has to be some form of harassment, but at the very least, just isn't okay. However, Adam is trying to manage a stand-to-pee device created for trans men to use urinals in spaces. Adam's curiosity of how to use a urinal as someone who was born female is not the problem. The issue is the way the show put this experience in Dave's hands. Why couldn't Adam ask his brother, his biological brother who is attending the same school, who has been there through his entire transition, on record has always been sensitive and supportive of Adam, to accompany him into the bathroom or show him privately? Why couldn't Adam ask Eli, his actual close friend and one of the first people he came out to at Degrassi? Why was this Dave's responsibility? That's honestly my only question. It shows how Black characters are often gaslit for the severity of their experience, villainized when convenient, and still have to be the most empathetic and forgiving person in the room. After all, Jimmy forgave Spinner for setting him up to take the fall for bullying Rick with paint and feathers in less than a year. And while forgiveness spiritually is for yourself, the grace that was shown to Spinner on Jimmy's behalf was beyond the maturity level of someone Jimmy's age. Jimmy even admitted he bullied Rick too and took accountability for his role in things leading up to the day of the game show. We never once saw Jay Hogarth or Alex take accountability for any of their involvement. Dave Turner apologized for his behavior in real time without ever having it acknowledged that his boundaries were violated not once, but twice. Black characters can be the shadow energy of the show, but they can never do so while holding on to bitterness or without making some sort of concession for peace. And this is more of an observation of this reality and a criticism of disproportionate emotional work when it came to social issues like racism, Islamophobia, and transphobia. It's interesting how Degrassi made these issues one that mostly Black characters dealt with, as opposed to characters who are more closely connected to oppressive cultures.
Always men. People don't care about girl sports. Girls aren't good athletes.
That's like saying all Blacks are great athletes.
Well, he was captain of the basketball team.
It's not because his skin's dark. It's because he has talent and he works hard.
What are you gonna write next? Something about me being Black?
Your threat about Jamaica declaring war on Iraq?
It was a joke.
Really? That's where this stuff starts. Don't blame being here on Fariza.
What I mean is, when Fariza's display was vandalized and we learned it was done by 2 other students in another grade, we only primarily focused on Hazel's self-hatred. We didn't really focus on what drove those boys to hatred. And no, the roundtable discussion did not suffice because the culprits were never visibly held accountable. Only Hazel was. When Frankie and the volleyball team created a racist prank against a rival school, we got to see Frankie implode and deflect, but we only really saw Shay emotionally grapple with the racist undertones and specifically how to move forward with Frankie and forgive her. We never saw Lola address her own racist involvement.
Northern Tech is going to be in trouble next week.
We're playing against the zoo. They are scary.
Because they all look like criminals. No offense.
Why would I be offended?
You drew me as a monkey.
If the banana fits. And you explained that it wasn't racist, right?
Except it kind of was.
And let's not forget Degrassi high 80s racism was way more forward. They made sure to call BLT the N-word 3 whole times in one episode. When Alex returned to Degrassi to better her grades for university, she was confronted with the ways her bullying impacted others by a random Black character who was nearly blinded with a laser pointer by her, who in the same episode had to retaliate and then work amicably with Alex on the lacrosse team.
It wasn't personal. You could have been anybody.
But it was me.
A real person. You made my life hell, and the worst part, you don't even remember doing it.
Black characters had to be everything all at once and nothing at all. I say that because many Black characters are storyless. We don't know what drives their behaviors, but we expect them to intuitively react the way that serves their counterparts at any given moment and are often forced to be the voice of reason among peer groups. If an Ivory character was bitter, like Alex or Jay, they were seen as bitter by nature, or they had some sort of justifiable life circumstance to equate their misguided anger. While characters like Damien had to bear the brunt of the tragic loss of JT as a student from Lakers, who wasn't even involved in JT's unaliving. Characters like Tabby, a Black female character of very few lines, was just a bully and a nuisance for the sake of having antagonizing peer groups, but we never knew her story. And speaking of never knowing her story, let's talk about Chante Black, one of the longest running Black characters of the series, rivaled only by Lucy Fernandez, I think, and a few other backstories that were blatantly ignored. Chante was characterized as bitter and jealous of what her friends possessed.
Must be nice to have a sugar daddy.
Excuse me? Gold digger.
Scary.
Okay, terrifying. Here's what I'm looking for, okay? Confident, not angry.
Perpetually late.
Shantae's late again.
Sorry.
Was belittled or minimized for her contributions to the school.
So what can we do to protest Power Squad's cancellation? You know, without the rest of Power Squad.
Guess Millionaire March is out.
And was even accused of trying to take credit for her alleged friend's work while trying to be sensitive to her very obvious health concerns.
I'll finish for both of us.
You'd like that, wouldn't you?
What's that supposed to mean?
You're making me look bad.
You're doing that to yourself. Your body's telling you something and you're not listening. And whatever it is, you'd better start dealing. You can talk if you want.
Thanks, Mom.
She was also used to antagonize characters through exploitation on her blog, but was also tasked with being the only character to bring back clubs and organizations to Degrassi, or hold space for the random minutiae of her classmates at any given moment. But we don't even know what her home life was like.
You can try it again next year.
Great, well, who am I supposed to hang out with until then?
Honey, that's not my problem.
Connor's backstory was also another egregious missed opportunity, with him coming to live with Snake or Mr. Simpson as his godchild. We could have easily connected his backstory to a Degrassi High Black character and blended that story into the understanding of who Connor was. Why couldn't Connor be Tim's child or BLT's child? Meanwhile, Connor had a lot of socially specific storylines, much like Liberty, that either spoke to their ineptitude or lack of social awareness, but still only existing in the background. Marisol, another unfriendly Black hottie, was a fixture in the series for at least a full season without knowing very much about her. The most we got was that she was seemingly well off, popular, and friends with Katie, but why couldn't we have spent more time getting to know her as opposed to characters like Wesley, no shade, during these seasons, who was just going to be black-holed anyway? If there were Black characters involved in story beats, too often they were portrayed as desperate for the friendship or adoration of more centered characters, even displaying elements of codependency at times. However, to be fair, this is also shown a lot in Degrassi intense friendships, or relationships between two characters that blur the emotional lines of support and unhealthy attachment. If that subject interests anyone, let me know in the comments if you would want a video on that. Lucy was portrayed as a bad influence to her peers, and idealized at the same time for her proximity to male acceptance and her ability to create change at Degrassi. Hazel was portrayed as bitter and self-hating and disliked anyone getting close to Paige. Chante solely existed to regurgitate the lives of her peers through her blog. Marisol was the manipulative baby daddy stealer who was so cutthroat she would sabotage and out her own best friend, would do anything for a guy, but also was desperate to be centered by Katie. However, in the same breath were confidants and trusted companions to those very same individuals. One of the only differing dynamics were relationships like Spinner and Jimmy's, which in my personal opinion was designed to make Jimmy's character look a certain way, which I'll talk about in my Jimmy video, and characters like Liberty Van Zant. Liberty, a queen among queens, was anything but desperate. I would go as far as saying she was giving Spectrum before Connor was serving Spectrum, but Liberty, one of the most relatable, nuanced Black characters in my opinion, who carried many burdens: a teen pregnancy, an adoption, the tragic loss of her partner, had a relatively relatable life and sibling relationship, maintained her individuality and friendships with her day ones, and went on to bear the burden of racism on her college campus almost immediately. Unlike many other Black characters, we knew Liberty. We knew that excellence drove her. We knew that physical appearance for her wasn't paramount and eventually came effortlessly. We knew her wit and we knew her effervescence. If Degrassi could have created even more depth behind Liberty as well as other Black characters without putting so much emotional burden on these characters, there could have been space for even more continuity in the show. We know that Degrassi is the show that goes there, but Degrassi Black characters were tasked with doing a lot with very little screen time. From bearing the emotional burden of their experience and the decisions or treatment from their peers to managing antagonistic plot points, Black characters managed to be some of the most well-rounded personalities because, quite frankly, they never had a choice. These characters were often thrust into leadership roles, aspirational aesthetics, or life-altering circumstances without ever truly knowing their story or what truly made them who they were. What are your thoughts on Degrassi Black characters? Who are your favorites, and how do you think the writers could have expanded on their identities? Thank you so much for watching this video. You can connect with me at Official Chanez on TikTok and Instagram. You can also follow my tarot channel at Chanez Tarot. You can also check out my Substack, Ripples and Static, and the handle for that is Official Chanez as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to consider subscribing if you like content like this, and I will see you in the next video.